And one. All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Rebel Brick. Now, tomorrow is going to be our. Oh, my daughter's pointing at me. All right. Okay. Oh, I can't. Huh? All right. All right. Well, a little sidestep here. Okay. So tomorrow we're going to be doing our Star Wars role playing game, and for anyone that's new to role-playing games or anything else, and you're seeing some of this stuff and it seems a little different or whatever else, or you're just trying to figure out ways to get into it, now I'm intending to do as much as I can with Lego. And with that being said, I've been playing for many years, so having different pieces out here to kind of explain some of the silliness and the things that we've gone through and all that. That's where we are. When you're trying to do this stuff on a budget, if you're trying to come up with maps and stuff like that, having simple paper maps, that does work pretty good. You can kind of piecemeal them together to however you want, and these are store-bought, typically maybe about $20 for a set of maps, and you can change it around. You can find them for whatever else. These are actually maps that I can print out. I've bought throughout the years from a company or whatever that I had seen over at Gen Con. I think that they still do it, and I think there's other companies doing it. Programs so that way I can have like science fiction, or I could have medieval stuff or whatever. And they even had terrain that you can make and build and everything else. So that was always kind of nice, being able to do that. And these were to be printed out and what is it, like 8x8 or something like that. So you could put it onto a table or however you wanted to do it. And then we also have flip maps. This one I haven't even taken out of the package. And much like these, you just unfold it onto a table. I've had some different Starship maps that I've used in the past and that. So that works pretty good. I had picked up a bunch of Warlock, and they snap together. You have doors, windows, walls, the floor tiles, all that stuff. Typically, your floor tile is like a 1-inch square. So it's 1 inch by 1 inch across. And that's typically how it works. I've done a lot of miniatures in the past. This is a pre-painted plastic miniature, so I didn't have to do it. I got more of the pre-painted stuff, in recent years. My hands start shaking a little bit more. Here's an old one, and I painted that a while ago, and I don't know how well you can see, but I got some red on the claws and in the mouth and all that. I will never say I'm a very good painter, but I do enjoy doing some of the stuff from time to time. But with my hands shaking nowadays, it's not quite as easy. I have a female monk, and then I have the red trim going all the way around, and then her belt, and brown on her pockets and arms, and all that stuff, painting some of the terrain. That was always kind of fun. And that's a lead pewter, or lead-free pewter. This is another plastic gentleman, a nice little dwarf. I painted him many years ago. And as you can see, when I have time and all that, it was fine. I never even finished this guy. I just got some base colors on there. And of course, we'll probably do more Lego. And Lego makes pretty good stuff. There are some websites out there that actually cater towards people playing Dungeons and Dragons. Star Wars is real nice because, they make plenty of Star Wars stuff. And that's why we're going to do Star Wars. I love Star Wars. For the Star Wars that, whoops, I knocked over his horn for the unicorn armor. Star Wars that we're playing uses what's called D6. So it's your standard D6 dice that you find in most of your board games and all that stuff. But I've bought, and this one was $4 at the time when I bought it. Just sets of dice like this. I had one game that we got a whole bunch of tiny little dice like that, so you could actually have some really small dice. And of course, If you're doing Dungeons and Dragons, you're going to have dice that look a little bit more like this. I don't know how well you can see it while it's in here, so I will dump it out. So you've got your standard 4, 6. When I first started, you used to have 3 6-sided dice. You have our 8. Should have 2 10s, 1 and 2. If you notice, one is like a 5 0, 3 0, and then the other one is like just 6 2 whatever. So this is your 1's place. This is your 10's place. So if you ever get 0 0, that's 100. So I believe that's how that goes. I don't usually use it all that often because I don't run into it all that much. Then we have our 12-sided die, and then our 20-sided die. So Wizards of the Coast, they usually show like a 20-sided die in there, and that's where it all comes from. You know, there's some other games that use 10s and 20s and stuff like that as well. I know some games they use, instead of using the 6-sided, they just use 10-sided dice. Kind of going through some of that. You know, however much money you want to throw into doing role-playing games. And like I said, the West End Games Star Wars that we're going to be doing, all the books are free. So if you wanted to download them, just look up West End Games or WEG, then like Star Wars or space, adventure, or fantasy. Because they don't exist anymore. It's all open to the public. It's all free. And all you need is a small bag of whatever 6-sided dice you have and having one as an odd color. And that's your wild die. So, and as you see, I've got some road plates here. I have these. Let's see. I know I opened this up at one point. Actually, it's looking like I didn't open it up. I must have opened it up. Yep, I did. Because there's a piece out of here. So I'll kind of show you here a little bit. Warlock is a big brand name. There are other companies that make this stuff, so if you want to go on the cheaper side, you can go on the cheaper side. Some of the nice things about how they do some of this stuff simply comes down to you can open the doors. As you see, we have the notches down here, so you can put your connector pieces in there, so you can connect the floor pieces. So that's always kind of nice. And then we have walls. So these are half walls. It's kind of an up in arms. What's better, having a full wall or a half wall? If it's a half wall, if you're across the table from someone, you know, that other person can see it a little bit easier than if it's a full wall. So, I mean, there's pros and cons to everything. Sometimes it's kind of nice having a full wall so you can see, yes, this is what your character would be able to see, but, you know, you have to remember, this is all imagination. Having the walls and that there is a little bit nicer than simply having the maps, because I've run into instances where the guys that are in my group, they thought that, you know, we were going into a graveyard, so they didn't realize that there was a fence going around the graveyard. So then they had to kind of change their plans and go around that. So, or like when when we had first started out, of course we were in high school and we didn't have any money or whatever. We either just drew some stuff on paper or we just explained it. So, you know, trying to explain stuff is really nice. Having something there so you don't have to spend as much time explaining the stuff is really nice as well. So, you know, it all depends on how you want to play. What kind of a group, you know, if you're just starting, or, you know, if you're someone that's more used to doing role-playing games and you're watching this is probably all old hat for you, because, you know, you're used to seeing all this stuff, and, you know, maybe you've gone to different conventions and you've seen different things, like, yeah, I already know about all that stuff, which is great. For those that are new to it or anything else, because, you know, if I do this as a standard Sunday thing, you know, you may be interested to try and find out what might fit for you, or where do you find certain things, or whatever. You know, even if you just print out little pictures. One of the games that I had Actually, I still have, and it's got little miniatures of robots and all that stuff. In their basic box sets, they used to just have little pictures, like a front and a back, with a little stand, and then that was enough so that way you could see it. So, however sophisticated you want to get into it, how basic you want to do it, whatever works for your lifestyle, that's perfectly fine. Whatever kind of game you want to play. I like Star Wars because, unlike Dungeons and Dragons, which is still a lot of fun to play, normally I had all the books. And with Star Wars, it's very easy to level characters. You didn't have to look at this chart and find out that or anything else. And it was a very classless system. So if you wanted to have a pilot become a Jedi, kind of like a Luke Skywalker or something like that, you could do it. It went a roundabout way. It wasn't as easy to do, but there are rules in there so you can do it. If you wanted to make your character more of a thief or more just straight up being able to punch people in the face and end your fight, or however you wanted to do it. If you want to try and talk people into things and command people, you could do that too. There's a lot of nice things about that. Sometimes some of the games are trying to add that stuff in, but it doesn't come off the greatest. And sometimes you just have to do what's commonly called house rules. You throw in some house rules that really help make the game your own. Kind of like you noticed when I was doing our session 0, I threw in hit points. Now that does come from another West End Games book, but it's another way of doing things. There's nothing right, there's nothing wrong. It's just how I kind of like doing it, because otherwise the way you're supposed to do it is you roll the dice. Your opposing force, they roll their body strength, and if you wanted to delete them, you would actually have to get 3 times their body dice with your damage dice. Otherwise, they would go into like a damaged effect category, and you'd have to figure all that stuff out. Just doing a hit points works very nice for me. Works pretty good for the guys that I run with. So that's the way that we've done it ever since we learned how to do that. Like I said, it all depends on how you want to play, what works for your group, and most importantly, are you having fun? Because nobody ever wants to come back and play something if they're not having fun doing it. Just like doing Legos or anything else, For me, it's fun. Trying to be creative. I like building things. Like I said, my hands start shaking when I'm painting and that. And the other day I kind of noticed my thumbs just sitting there twitching or whatever, just for no reason. So I'm getting old. I understand that, and things don't work the way they once did, and I can't keep my hands as steady as I once did. So Legos work great for me. I don't have to paint anything. We have a wide variety, whether you want to do some city stuff or whatever else, or just making cities and all that stuff is a lot of fun. Maybe sometimes it doesn't, our imagination of what we think something should be and the way it actually comes out isn't quite always the same, but we try our best. And then maybe sometimes we learn a better building technique by watching somebody else. And my hope with everything I do here is, for everybody that watches this, and it always amazes me to see that people are, with all the stuff that's out on YouTube, that you guys actually do watch the silliness that I do, and I'm very appreciative of it. It's kind of amazing that I've got some creative ideas in my mind, whether it actually comes out the way I want it to or not, but that I have people willing to spend a couple minutes of their day to see that silliness, and it always amazes me. So with that being said, tomorrow we will have our role-playing game. I will have our session 1. We will get our characters going, But until then, thank you so much for visiting. I do really appreciate it. I hope you have a wonderful day and keep bricking.